Ladies and gentlemen, it's finally happened. The reigning world champion of chess, Gukesh, who recently celebrated just his 19th birthday, took down Magnus Carlsen in today's Norway chess event. Norway Chess 2025 has been the best tournament of the year. I think it's going to be just the best event, period, with all the drama this year. Incredible matchups across the board. Magnus started the tournament beating Gukesh, and then he even tweeted a picture that said, if you come at the king, you best not miss. He was looking to make a statement today with a 2-0 score in the classical portion, and it ended with a dramatic slamming of the table, pieces falling all over the place. Emotions we rarely see from the top chess players. Let's just get into it. That's all I have to say. Oh my goodness, we are living in a truly epic time. We're living in a time when the world champion of the game of chess is a teenager. The previous world champion isn't contending anymore. There's all these discussions. Who's really the best player in the world? It's epic to see. Magnus have been gaining points in this tournament. Let's see what happens. So Gukesh opened with e4. This is the move that he played primarily during the world championship. And after e5, knight f3, knight c6, Gukesh attacked Magnus with a Spanish, not an Italian, but a Spanish. Now here, a6 is the Morphy defense, the most common move. Magnus, however, threatens to kill the game completely in the first few moves. The move knight to f6 is a very, very solid defense. I mean, it's called the Berlin. The main line of the Berlin leads to what's called the Berlin endgame. You don't have to know too much about this, but Magnus threatened to kind of kill the game off because in the Norway chess tournament, if there is a draw in the long game, the classical game, the game played with 2 hours on the clock each, they play bonus games. Gukesh says, no, thank you. I prefer to fight. This is what we know about Gukesh. He is going to fight against everybody. Bishop goes to c5. Gukesh plays c3. This is a move that prepares d4, also fights for the center. Maybe b4 ideas. The knight will go here. The bishop will come out on this diagonal, etc. We have castles by Magnus. So far, everybody playing normal stuff. Nobody's really thinking too much in the beginning of the game. d6. h3 from Gukesh. This is a very straightforward move. He doesn't want to be pinned. Magnus plays a6, attacking the bishop. The bishop slides back to a4, and Magnus plays h6. This move also stops white from making a pin. Maybe the knight is going to go back to the h7 square in some positions. Boring stuff so far, all right? Nothing too special. Rook e1. Magnus kicks out the bishop and slides the bishop back to b6 so that it's not going to get hit by white's pawn advancements. And in the next few moves, both guys are going to make a choice. And the reason why Magnus plays these slow grinding type of games against these young players is because the young guys don't have a lot of experience when the pace of the game is slowed down and there's a myriad of plans to choose from. Gukesh plays knight bd2 after spending some 13 minutes, and then he chooses to play a4, attacking the queen side, and Magnus defends with rook b8, and now d4. Very principled, very critical, trying to attack Magnus in the center and on the queen side. Magnus repositions the knight to the g6 square, supporting the king, also supporting the center, obviously from a different angle. And the reason the knight moved from c6 to g6, because sometimes you're going to get to use the c-pawn like this. This is all very normal, very standard stuff for this opening. You might look at the position, go, you can take. Yes, every single pawn trade is possible. There are many different plans for both sides to choose whether you're going to open the position by trading pawns, closing the position by playing the move d5. But over the next few moves, Magnus traded, and the position looked to be pretty innocuous. There was not too much happening. Guys have a B and A pawn on that side of the board. You can imagine those pawns get traded. You have a deadlock position in the center. I was looking at this going, I would not be smart enough to figure out where the play is in this position. And the other thing you want to do in the Spanish, you sometimes want to mobilize with your knight, try to create some sort of attack. But over the next few moves, experience kicked in again. Gukesh tried to trade the bishop. Magnus brought the bishop back to c8, potentially threatening various sacrifices, potentially trying to trade, also opening up this, right, trying to take here. Just a flexible move. Gukesh played b3, Magnus traded, and played knight to f4. And when I saw this, I was like, oh, he's taking over again. Just like in their first classical game, he kept the tension. It was very tense for a very long time. Deep into the time control, when both their clocks got low, Magnus struck. I was looking like, oh, he has attacking ideas potentially. He's going to potentially sacrifice. I mean, his knight is looking really tasty on the f4 square. It looks like Magnus is putting the pressure on Gukesh again. Gukesh put the bishop on c6. Now, already The crazy thing is already you can sacrifice, which is bananas. You can sacrifice the knight, the bishop. At the end, you land the check, right? Pawn takes, knight takes, check. You strip the white king of 2 defensive pawns. Then the knight goes back to where it's standing, and this knight can come in. And a computer really likes that position for black for some reason, even though you don't have anything. You're just horsing around. But Magnus is a human being. Instead, he plays rook b4, but that doesn't stop the following sequence of moves. Gukesh plays queen c2, supporting the center. Magnus plays g6. So now none of the white knights can go here. Every square on that side of the board is officially protected. Gukesh makes what he considers an improving move, but it does feel like every move black is making is more of an improving nature than Gukesh, right? Like it seems bishop a6 is a bit more active. And now queen a2. And I remember where I was in the store. I looked at my phone and I was like, queen a2. So queen a2 is an attack on the a5 pawn. But what it does is it surrenders the control of d3, and Magnus doesn't even hesitate. The e4 pawn now will fall. If the e4 pawn falls, the entire integrity of the white position is questioned because your king is going to be under attack. The d pawn is going to be under attack. What do you do? Look at this incredible coordination. This is why he's the best player in the world. But is he perfect? We're about to find out. Gukesh plays knight back to d2. But now here comes h5. Every move that black has played has led to this. h4 is incoming. The white center completely destabilized. You cannot play h4 because then I put my knight here attacking your rook, attacking this pawn, and you're going to get mated. So Gukesh is again under heavy, heavy fire. His position is in dire straits. What's he going to do? Queen takes a5. He has to justify the plan. Magnus takes rook a5, and the pawn has arrived on the h4 square. Time is running out. The knight has to go backwards. But if it goes backwards, you're going to lose everything in the center of the board. So what do you do here? What do you do? Gukesh has 20 minutes on the clock. What's he going to play? He plays rook a4. Oh. Ooh. Fancy move. Threatening a rook trade. Why? Because you're not actually threatening to take the knight. Because then I would take back with the pawn, attacking your knight, and your knight needs to protect your bishop. Whoa. Gukesh should sort of turn this around a little bit on Magnus. But Magnus just brings the reinforcements. This is still going to be a continuous threat. It's still going to be a problem. White is going to really struggle to make a move here. Gukesh down to 10 minutes on the clock versus 24. Significant pressure being applied by Magnus, who just makes a king move. Just improving. Doesn't do anything. Gukesh has 10 minutes. His position is just 1 or 2 bad moves from completely collapsing. Complete collapse. The bishop, God knows where. Rook hitting this. Rook hitting this. Bishop standing around. Knight is hanging. What do you move if you're playing with white? We got to go for something. Magnus, best move in response. -3 on the evaluation bar, but it doesn't look that way. I mean, they don't know that it's -3. You and I know that it's -3, but why is it -3? Why is it -3? You try to play knight f3. The rook is hanging. But now, I can take the knight. For this move, 15 minutes to 9, Magnus is just straight up a piece. Gukesh takes back. The rook is hanging. The knight is hanging. What does Magnus do? He can play bishop takes e4. It's complete chaos. If you take the rook, at the end there's a check. I can also take with the knight. I can also take, it's a mess. What do you try to calculate here? Magnus sacrifices the knight on h3. He does this because if you take, I'm going to play bishop e4, picking up a second pawn, pinning the knight to the king. So what does Gukesh do? Takes the knight, bishop e4. Okay, we take a deep breath. Magnus is no longer up any material. He was up a knight for half a move, but now he takes, and now the knight is pinned here. This is still under attack, and this is still under attack. So probably he's going to end up in this position up a pawn as we get deeper into the endgame. Gukesh plays king h2. He unpins himself. Now the rook is hanging. Black can take, play rook d2, and probably swarm in with his pieces. Okay, he plays rook d1. Rook d1. Now you can't really move the knight because then you're going to get mated, right, with the bishop. So what does Gukesh do? Plays g4. Oh my. Not only is he escaping with his king, g5 could be a threat in some positions because the knight is protecting the bishop. So maybe now Magnus does have to take, but he could have done that on the last move. He takes the pawn. So now Magnus back up 1 pawn. He has a 1 pawn advantage. Gukesh gets rid of his bishop. That bishop went there 15 moves ago. 15 moves ago, the bishop landed on c6. 15 moves ago. It did nothing for 15 moves. Knight takes d5. Magnus is up a pawn. He's up a pawn He's about to come in for more. Gukesh is down to 5 minutes on the clock, looking at an 0-2 score against Magnus Carlsen. In classical chess, Gukesh goes rook back to e2. Magnus plays knight f4 immediately. The rook goes to c2. Gukesh has to look for counterplay. He's down below 4 minutes. Here comes the king running to f6. Gukesh plays h4. This is an insanely clutch move, sealing off this escape, and ideas like knight g5 incoming. Knight g5, rook f7 is mate. Gukesh will mate Magnus Carlsen out of nowhere. King e6, but now in comes knight g5. Magnus's king runs to the center of the board, completely giving away the f7 pawn, which Gukesh does not even capture. He doesn't capture it because part of the responsibility of running out like this with your king is you got to protect that guy, and he's in the middle of the board. Both guys, 2 minutes for white, 4 minutes for black. Insanity brewing. Rook a4 check. Okay, Magnus can make a draw. Of course, he can repeat the position. He runs down the king even further to d3. The king said, I am going to do this myself. d3. Where does Gukesh go? Best move. Played with 2 seconds on the clock. Now, black, in all of this, can play a million different things, but there's mates you got to worry about. I mean, like, rook b3 looks possible, but actually rook h8 is the best move. f5 is possible as well. He plays f6, which apparently is a mistake, because rook f3 check, which Gukesh finds with 20 seconds on the clock. We have crossed the 40th move of the game, which means that now they are getting 10 seconds bonus every move, just so they don't lose on time. The king has to go to the second rank. This is unfathomable. What on earth is that king doing? It's taking Norwegian Airlines to the first rank of the board. Rook a2 check. If king e1, rook e3's mate. It's mate in a few moves, which means Magnus has to go here. Rook takes d2, king takes d2. Now it's a rook and knight endgame, except the king is on the opposite side of the board. If this king was here, black wins. It's not even a question, because all the pawns survive. All the pawns survive. Black just wins another pawn. Slowly you win the game. But the king is on this side. Why is the king here? And suddenly, black is not even winning anymore. d5, but he's going to lose this pawn. Knight takes f6. Rook f8. Rook f2 check. That's the best move. Because if the king comes forward, there's all sorts of tactics. And if the king goes here, you just feel good about yourself. You've completely cut off the king. Knight d7. Forking the rook and forking the pawn. And you can probably see it from the move preview. In this position, Magnus Carlsen, with 47 seconds on the clock, plays the move, knight e2, check. And the entire world gasped. When you play knight e2 check, this is the biggest roll of the biggest pair of dice. Because if white moves the king, you just take the rook. So you know the sequence that's coming is forced. Rook e2 check and knight f8. Keep in mind, nobody plays with the eval bar. Magnus went for this because in his mind, he calculated within 25 seconds, his pawns are going to queen before the white knight is able to do anything. But he's wrong. The pawn is running. Gukesh's knight is running backwards desperately. 3 tempi to go. d3. Knight c5. And all of a sudden, if you play d2, there is this really nasty trap of knight e4. And when you make a queen, I fork you. So that's why Magnus goes king e3. He must have thought this position is winning, and if it's not winning, it's a draw. Because white would have to sacrifice the knight. But I think what he might have missed is the white knight runs to the outskirts of the board, which is what Gukesh spotted. And suddenly, there is no move. Any move that black makes with any of these pieces loses something. The b2 square is going to be from where you defend against the mate. So it's going to take white multiple moves to run over this way. And in that time, this king is going to get closer. Black can't move 3 pieces at the same time. Black can't move 2 pieces at the same time. Black has to make one move. He goes here. And now Gukesh goes running on his own. Gukesh goes running on his own. Pawn takes. Pawn takes. Magnus plays king d2. Knight b2. The pawn goes here. Knight c4 check. Black has to keep this pawn protected. He goes here. Gukesh plays king f4. He's going to take this pawn. He's going to stop the promotion of this one. And in this position, Magnus Carlsen slammed down his fist, extended his hand, and resigned the game. Unbelievable scenes. Unbelievable scenes. The defensive tenacity of the young world champion. Crazy. You could say Magnus, it's very easy to look at this game and be like, well, how is that even possible? It was -2, it was -3. It was never particularly clear. Right around here, Black needed to find his way through this labyrinth, this twister of a chessboard. Apparently, bishop e4 here is the best move. Trying to play rook d1. If knight takes d4, you have e takes d4, threatening the rook. Multiple things are hanging. Magnus was winning for a couple of moves, but the second he gave Gukesh an opportunity to get right back into this game, Gukesh found rook c2, h4, knight g5, all of these clutch moves to make things difficult for Magnus. And at the end of the day, he rolled the dice, and in this position, he needed to just play rook e8, apparently. It was maybe the final moment to keep the pressure, but Gukesh beats Magnus Carlsen. Oh my goodness. Shocked. Just incredible. Oh my goodness. This is going to be such an injection of confidence into the young man, you know? Oh, this is like a true sporting event. It's like watching the Knicks lose to the Pacers every year in the playoffs. Sorry, that's a personal. I don't even know what relevance that had. I just had to vent. Oh, now, other people play in this tournament too. So let's go look at those games as well. Today, we also had Hikaru versus Fabi. We had Erigaisi versus Wei Yi. Oh, man. We had some great games. Let's open up with Hikaru versus Fabiano Caruana. This one started with a Sicilian defense. It was knight f3, knight c6. It was the Rossalimo from Hikaru. And Fabi played this line d6. This is not the most common line. The computer in modern times has made this line possible, but it's not very good. But Fabi obviously played it for surprise value. And from the opening, he got a very nice position. He played another surprising move, which is e5. It's not the most common move. And after takes, bishop g4, he is sort of baiting Hikaru into playing d5, putting the knight in the middle, giving away on f3 and helping White's central pawn structure, but obviously weakening White's king. Hikaru here thought for a little bit and just chopped down. He just chopped it all down. He was like, I'm not participating in any of your opening preparation, Fabi. We're going to trade the pieces. This is the position that we're going for. Computer unimpressed. It's like, what do you do at queen b2? Rook b1, rook b7, dead equal. Not that dead, because White's f2 pawn is a little delicate. Like, he could accidentally blunder queen f2 and queen g1 mate, but completely symmetrical. Both guys have an a pawn, both guys have a knight, both guys have a queen, both guys have two rooks, opposite-colored bishops. Honestly, after spending about 15, 16 minutes on the first game, I don't have too much to say about this one. In this game, Fabiano came with excellent opening preparation. Hikaru said, I'm not even going to participate. And he literally just killed the game immediately. He was like, nope, that's what happened. They spent about an hour, maybe 2 hours on this game. But it was very nice prep by Fabi. He played like this, and he obviously tried to provoke a fight. Hikaru was like, nah, I'm going to get on the scoreboard. We are not going to get into a big fight. Obviously, you have the prep here. And keep in mind, like, in their last 4 or 5 decisive games in classical chess, Hikaru's won every single one. The last time Fabi beat him, I think, was in the first round of the 2022 Candidates Tournament in Madrid. But since then, Hikaru has won a lot of the games. So Hikaru is going to try to beat Fabiano in an Armageddon. That's the strategy. He doesn't respect the matchup as much as he would in a classical chess. Black only has 7 minutes in the Armageddon. Keep in mind, if you win the Armageddon, 1.5 points for the standings. Otherwise, it's 1 point. And yeah, in this game, I mean, Hikaru just plays double bishop fianchetto and just wants a position that's going to be potentially easy to play. Except now, what's really hilarious on the game review bar, it becomes a ski slope down, which is just really funny. So in this format, you know, you have to play provocatively, you have to play fast, and from this point forward, it's going to get to the point until Black just has a convincing advantage. So bishop c3, Black plays queen e7, queen b2, rook d8, rook c8. This sequence of moves, all equal, but suddenly Fabiano just activates all his pieces. And it's going to get even worse right here with the move queen b2. It's just a solid minus 1.2. It's what the computer was saying. But again, just like the Gukesh game, not so easy. It's not so easy. You don't, when you play, you don't know it's minus 1.2. You feel like I'm better, I have some advantage. And then you go here and the whole advantage is gone. Because Black is not trying to win. Black is just trying to not lose. He just wants to make a draw. Knight takes. Hikaru plays f3. The knight goes to g5. And he picks up a pawn. The problem is, with picking up this pawn, is that now your king has to go to f1. Otherwise, it was going to be a draw. So now your king is on f1, and Fabiano's knocking on the door. He trades this, rook c4. Hikaru has an equal position in terms of material. There is enough imbalance here. White can still play this for a win, but it is a little bit risky. Fabiano, meanwhile, bishop g5 trading. Look at White's king. White's king looking suspicious. But now Hikaru's winning. 2 mistakes by Fabiano in a row with 2.5 minutes on the clock. Hikaru, rook b8. Instead of rook b8, apparently, rook b5. Targeting this pawn was maybe the move. He plays rook b8. Obviously wants to trade. The e5 pawn is still hanging. It's still hanging. But there's not enough pieces on the board now, and the time advantage is only about 40 seconds, 30, 40 seconds. Hikaru tries his hardest, and he's going to get a chance. G4 here, finds it, best move. Rook c8, king h7. Now the move bishop e5. Is Hikaru going to find this? No. Bishop e5, paralyzing the black position first, would have been a little bit better. And after bishop g7, he goes here. Very, very weird. But the point is that black's bishop gets off the better diagonal. But when you rush in like this, you're going to get one more chance. The bishop has to go to e5. It does. And after bishop g7, you have to put the bishop on d6. He finds it. Knight goes to g5. Rook c6. Again, they got less than a minute. Anything can happen. And anything does happen. Fabiano Caruana finds a great defensive resource and is able to survive into a pawn down endgame. And even this is a draw. This is a draw because of this resource. You can take the pawn. Doesn't matter. When the corner pawn is the wrong color of the bishop, it is a draw. Black will go king b8, king a8. You will not win this. Fabiano Caruana takes down Hikaru in Armageddon. Both guys get on the board. This was kind of a non-round for these two. The classical game was a whole bunch of nothing. I mean, Hikaru just did a nice job sort of avoiding any traps in the opening. Now, Arjun Erigaisi and Wei Yi. Also, in the opening, Wei Yi plays this Queen's Gambit Decline killer variation. This is the modern day, like if black shows up to a game of chess and doesn't want to play, just wants to make a draw, kill the game, pawn takes d5, pawn takes d4 at top level, has been proven to be a dead draw. The only chance you have here of getting a game, I know it's insane. How can chess be solved on move 5? Well, this is why these guys are always complaining about openings and they want to play Fischer random freestyle. But Erigaisi, I called Gukesh once, like 5 recaps ago. 2 top 5 Indians in the tournament. He plays like this, Erigaisi. He just kind of... The one advantage White has here is that White has a little lead in development. He's just going to massage. He's going to massage the development. He's going to play rook c1 and queen and bring everybody. The queen is going to go here. And it looks like White is a little bit better. And he is a little bit better. But my guy Wei Yi here finds knight takes a2, which is just a sexy knight sacrifice. I mean, my goodness. Look at that move. He can't take with the knight because the bishop is going to take the pawn. But you can't make a move. You can't move. And Wei Yi, a6. Black is... Both knights are under attack. He can't do anything. Takes, a b5, bishop b5. Wei Yi plays this game like a machine. That is not an exaggeration. He completely kills the game. If rook e5 here, rook here, and bishop b4, you can resign. If rook e5, you just lose. Rook b1, king f1, bishop b4. And if you are not able to take that pawn, right? This was just one of those games. This is a game. If black shows up and doesn't want to get a game at the 27-60 level, he just won't. He's going to get on the scoreboard. Now Wei Yi's going to have a chance to win with the black pieces in the Armageddon. Keep in mind, by the way, he goes for the same exact thing. This time, CD, queen a4 check, bishop d7 takes here, knight takes d5, here. And in this variation, black is relying on the lead in development. Black is like, I'm down an e-pawn, but knight e4, right? Gonna try to kill off this game, bishop d2. Now white's like, I'm gonna give up the bishop. Bishop goes here, rook c1. Wei Yi has won back his pawn. Erigaisi's like, I'm not gonna let you get another one. I wanna go knight d6. This is just a memory test. The guys are literally playing a memory test. And in this position, Wei Yi forgets the memory test. If black here plays king f8, Maintaining the pin, but not bringing out the king, it's equal. He plays the much more natural move, which is king e7, pinning the knight to the queen. And Erigaisi memorized better than Wei Yi. The queen is going to g5, the knight is untouchable, and the queen is trapped. Queen c1 defends the b2 pawn, threatens rook a3, and threatens queen g5 ideas. So the black queen now needs to skedaddle. Meanwhile, the knight survives, the king is in the middle, and the knight is hanging. And the knight is going to go to c5 back, hit the queen, and take the bishop. Black plays queen e4 check. It's a completely insane position, but black is going to be losing some material. He goes down a knight, and it doesn't matter if he's Wei Yi. You can't beat Arjun Erigaisi down a piece. And he will not do it. Bishop f1, rook a7, down 3 minutes, down a bishop. He resigns. This is the difference between playing a game with 7 minutes on the clock and 2 hours. In this game, Wei Yi had a few moments he needed to spend about 10 minutes to figure out the position, and he did. Erigaisi plays a line where Wei Yi needed to memorize 20 moves. 20 moves to be okay. And without the time on the clock and with the pressure, he blunders, queen c1. And that's chess. I mean, that is chess. And that goes to show you, are the truest, strongest chess players, how would their skill be if they only had 15 minutes on the clock? It's just a totally different skill set. You don't have the time to go into the memory bank. Erigaisi wins in Armageddon. Now, 2 more games for you. Sarah Kadam, Adam Muzuchuk, Vaishali versus Hampi. This is the matchup, the All-India matchup. And we have Ju Wenjun versus Lei Tingjie. This is a rematch of everything that happened in round number 1. Every single one of these was in Armageddon. All 3 classical games were drawn. So we have a very standard Italian, d6. Remember, white is playing for a win. So white is always looking for long-term battle with an easy, clear plan to get black thinking. And in this game, that is exactly what happened. Lei Tingjie was granted a position that was considered slightly better, but it wasn't easy. She now has 3.5 minutes. White has 7. She's trying to figure things out. Now Ju Wenjun is going to start making little, look, bishop d2, look at this. Like a little queen c2, queen d3, bishop d2, rook c1, targeting the pawn, right? Knight back to e1, repositioning, and also f4, g4 ideas to create an attack. There it is, f3, right? Knight c2, just like moving the piece. The queen back to e2. Black has 1 minute and 30 seconds. This is Armageddon. Bishop g. Black has no time to think. Black has to make every move instantly. Queen g6. White is just better, making improvements. Knight takes the. If you take, rook takes d8. Rook takes d8. But now rook f3. Oh my goodness. You keep your own rook protected, and if this rook f8, oh, it's equal. It's back to equal. And now Ju Wenjun gets a chance a few moves later. Right here, queen h4 is winning for white, apparently. I guess you can't take the pawn on e7. But queen f2 check is played instead, and then she takes. But now there's queen b4. Total insanity. 6 seconds on the clock for Lei Tingjie. 15 on the clock for Ju Wenjun. And what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to survive this position from a nerve standpoint. King g3, king f4. Apparently white is winning. Really, black had to play something else here. Not let the king get to f5. That was the big mistake. But what's crazy is that despite Ju Wenjun having a totally winning position, easily advancing, right here, she blunders a draw. It's now a draw, which doesn't make any sense to me. Rook to a7, d2, rook e7, king d3 is the wrong move. You needed to go king f3, rook d7, sacrifice the rook, and then win the pawn. She needed to go after this pawn while threatening to go. She goes here, and now she's losing because the king joins the pawn. She's losing because now you're going to sack the rook for the pawn and promote. And that's exactly what happens in the game. Crazy. I mean, anything goes in Armageddon. You're about to see another game where anything goes. In the first round, Hampi had a great position against Vaishali. She was putting some pressure, but it was equal in the classical game. And at the very last moment, Vaishali lost it. Now, this is Armageddon. They play a Catalan-like position. Watch. This is totally symmetrical, but Vaishali has to play for a win. She sacrifices material, but, I mean, Hampi is a very experienced player. This is the position we have to work with. White has a bishop and a pawn for a rook. That's not enough to win a game like this, but it's Armageddon. So black is just going to defend. She's going to defend. She's not going to. Now white doesn't even have a rook anymore. It's just bishops. It's a light squared bishop and 2 pawns. The only chance white has is somehow getting these pawns down here, tricking black somehow. Black can even sack a bishop for 2 pawns, be left with the 2 bishops. You just don't want to end up in king and 2 bishops versus king. Now watch as this game ticks down to 20 seconds each. Complete pandemonium. This is why people... It happens. Rook b1 was played, attacking the bishop, and Vaishali took. That looks like a mouse slip. Looks like this was a blitz game. You meant to play rook b2. Yep. Vaishali didn't even get the pawns. It's not like this game went 90 moves. I think this is how the game ended. This is the official broadcast of the game. Rook b1, white takes. Armageddon, baby. This is Armageddon. We're about to have another one. Another Armageddon. 10 minutes for white, 7 minutes for black. Black is playing for a draw. That's how black wins. Very slow, very solid game. This is a semi-Slav. You know, white is just going to bring the rooks to the middle. Rook d1. Yep, knight e4. Try to not trade the queens. And what's going to happen is, you know, black is going to try to just stabilize. And in this game, that's exactly what he did. We got to this position, and let me tell you right now, you're not going to win this position with white. Even if you're going to be able to win the center pawn, that'll certainly make it easy, but now you're not even going to win the center pawn. There is no chance you're going to win this game. You're going to try to make a pass pawn. Black is just going to defend. Not only is black going to try to defend, black is just going to get a totally winning position because you tried to win the game. And then black is like, well, yeah, now black just has these pawns coming down. And that's exactly what Anna Muzichuk did. And I think here she was more than happy to just repeat the position. Black wins in the Armageddon with a draw anyway. So she gets the win. Folks, that was an insane standing shakeup. The women all won and lost in the Armageddon. So they all climbed the points by 1 and 1.5. It's still pretty close. A win for Lei or Sarah gets them very close to first place. And between the men, Gukesh has arrived. My man is now in clear third. Magnus and Fabi are tied for first. Hikaru and Erigaisi are tied for 4th and 5th. And Wei Yi is only a point out. I don't even think you can see it for some reason. It's not showing up here. Maybe I can hide one of these. Anyway, those are your standings. Those are your standings right here. He's got a 6.5, Wei Yi. I don't know why it's doing that. Anyway, Gukesh beat Magnus Carlsen. I can't believe it. What a time to be alive. Now get out of here.